try to put your minds around this one, and I know that you guys are well aware of Auburn thrashing Arkansas to the tune of 563 on the ground. Then Florida goes to Arkansas 2 weeks later, and sure, Arkansas was a little bit beat up on defense because of the stretch of games that they had to play, so they did have 2 weeks to rest up. But Florida only gets 12 yards on the ground against Arkansas after the Hogs have shown leaks on defense all year. So Florida hosting South Carolina, the Gamecocks playing better, 3-game winning streak. You got to be concerned, Dave, about the Gators.
Definitely concerned mentally of where the team is at. They're banged up, they're injured. Definitely after last week, so they're, I think, mentally, physically beaten up a little bit. I think McElwain went into that game thinking, the Florida team was probably gelling just at the right time, but then went on the road and just was really just stood up by an Arkansas team physically that got outcoached. So there was a lot of things I think you could point to there. It was, I keep bringing up, you can't ask this defense to be elite every week. Even the best defenses out there give up yards. Bama has given up yards to Arkansas, 400 yards passing to this Arkansas team. Ole Miss put up yards. I mean, these good defenses, they're eventually going to break, especially one like in Florida where the offense can't get going, can't help them out at all. So I think mentally, the defense maybe at points, just checks out at times. But Luke Del Rio, he's not going to play this game against South Carolina. And I can't forget the big headline here. Will Muschamp returns to the Swamp, where he coached fired 2 years ago. He's coming back. But the other big story, Luke Del Rio is out. Austin Appleby gets a start where he played against Tennessee and Vanderbilt. I don't necessarily think he played horrible in those games. Had a good first half against Tennessee. The offense dialed back, and Tennessee really clamped down at the same time to make that offense basically what we saw against Arkansas this past week, the second half of that game. And Vanderbilt has given teams trouble all season long with their defense. So Austin Appleby gets another crack at it. Felipe Franks true freshman, was announced as the backup. So we'll see. Jared Davis will be out. Alex Anzalone's out. The defensive line is banged up with CeCe Jefferson and Caleb Brantley. Brian Cox is banged up as well. So Florida has a lot of things trending the wrong way with play on the field and injuries. So their former head coach is coming into the Swamp with a hot quarterback in Jake Bentley. This freshman quarterback hitting about 73% of his passes, 2 touchdowns in his first 3 games each. And no picks. That's the big thing. He's a true freshman, hasn't thrown a pick yet in 3 games. So can he do that against the Florida secondary, who's still going to try and show out? Their head coach returns for senior day at the Swamp. So a lot of these seniors are going to be emotional. Their former head coach is going to be there. I'm back and forth on this game. I can see South Carolina's hot coming in, and I worry about the mental part of where Florida is at right now. And Florida's playing a backup quarterback, a lot of reserves on defense. So I'm really torn on this game. If I had to pick right now, I probably will pick the upset. And I can't believe when the line came out, Florida was actually favored by 15 when this line came out on Sunday. But if you're asking me right now, I keep leaning back. I think Florida gets upset by South Carolina Saturday.
Yeah, Dave, I think you bring up a good point. There's a lot of question marks on both teams, really. South Carolina's coming in with a 3-game winning streak. I watched that Tennessee-South Carolina game with interest, and I will tell you, I'm not sure it was so much what South Carolina did as it was that Tennessee just played very poorly. Tennessee never really tried to extend the field. Josh Dobbs' short passing was bad. You mentioned Austin Appleby had a very good first half against Tennessee, and then it seemed from my perspective that the Florida offensive coordinator dialed it back. I think is the term you used. I think if Florida lets Appleby throw it down the field, even if he has an interception or 2, I think that will loosen up the South Carolina defense. And Florida's offense didn't look too bad against Georgia. They put up, I believe, 40 against Missouri. Is that right? 40 against Missouri. So I think Florida has the talent. Here's what I think helps you guys. It's in Gainesville, and it's a noon game, so there's a little bit less pressure of the nighttime environment. But again, you're right. Florida doesn't really pass the eye test. Florida's a 2-loss SEC team, and they're not even in the top 25. That's how bad they've looked in a successful season thus far. So I think there's a lot of questions there, but I think in the end, I know Jake Bentley's having a lot of accolades, but I think the Florida defense is good enough to contain him. Rico Duato kind of had a breakout game against Tennessee. If South Carolina can possess the ball and if they can get a couple first downs every drive, they do have a chance to build some momentum, put some points up, and hang in this game. I don't think they're going to be able to do that, though. I think South Carolina has gotten a little bit lucky. I know that kind of sounds like sour grapes, but Tennessee just did not play well, and there are other games heading into this 3-game winning streak were UMass and Missouri. So I do like Florida in this game. I think the talent wins out. And then heading into the LSU game, I think Florida builds up some momentum.
Guys, do you agree that if chalk holds and South Carolina loses to Florida, but then they win the Western Carolina game, of course, they get blown out by Clemson. They go 6-6 outside of Auburn and what the Tigers have accomplished, that South Carolina has made the most significant strides of any team in the SEC. They go 6-6 after a 3-9. They found their quarterback. Jake Bentley was expected to be the guy, but this early, that over the last 6 games of the season, possibly, that he emerges, gets really good playing time, and they're successful. I would think that outside of Auburn, that this is the most significant that any program has taken in terms of strides toward the future here in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly that's a very compelling argument. I think Vanderbilt's looked a little bit better. I mean, I think South Carolina has done more than what Auburn had. Auburn's had the talent. Auburn has a ton of talent. Yeah. As I look at the standings right now, I would have to agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mark. I mean, I'm got to be impressed with. I mean, I had Will Gunter on Gators Breakdown this week, and kind of how we talked about South Carolina. Kind of he and I were a little bit higher on the Muschamp hire than a little bit of most people, because thought he could learn from his Florida experience, and it seems to be, Kurt Roper has kind of had that offense in click since Jake Bentley has taken over. So yeah, it is kind of interesting how they went from 3-9, now throwing a true freshman in midway through the season, and it has kind of sparked that team.
I would caution you. a little bit, Mark. That win against Vanderbilt was a last-second 50-yard field goal. They have a win against East Carolina. And again, I know this sounds sour grapes, but the game against Tennessee, I'm warning people not to take too much from that. Tennessee played horribly. South Carolina absolutely deserved to win, but Tennessee's performance was atrocious in that game. It was more about Tennessee having an atrocious performance than it was South Carolina coming out and just playing lights out. So, their marquee wins are a 50-yard field goal against Vanderbilt, East Carolina, UMass, and then a very down Missouri team. So I think to me, I would agree with you. They've had the best season comparatively to what we expected them to have, but I'm not sure that this validates the Muschamp hire or it sets a foundation for the future in Columbia. I'm not sure I would agree with that.